Well, speaking of teams though
Let's
that
hope.
weren't happy this past week, the Detroit Lions, man, they got absolutely dismantled this past weekend, 38-6 by the Ravens.
That shit was
They couldn't
trash.
even put up a point on the board until the fourth quarter. Yeah, it was tragic. You got that right, Sav. It was tragic. 5 sacks, an interception, tragic. Golf just could get nothing done.
But you know
Uh,
why? I'll let you
tell
finish. Finish.
tell
Finish.
tell us no, tell us why. I want to let
Who
the
was
fans know.
Detroit missing that was the main factor of the win for the last 2 weeks? Only reason I know this is because I have him. David Montgomery. David Montgomery had what, 3 touchdowns the week before? And then the week before that, I know he had 100 plus yards and at least a touchdown, maybe two, if I'm correct. I think it was one on the ground and then one receiving, maybe, or maybe two on the ground. But it's Detroit's always had that style where they like to press the ground and then throw when necessary. And it's like Detroit for me. Jared Goff is that one. Jared Goff is that one Madden player you play who is very technical until he gets uncomfortable in a situation where he has to play outside the box. And without having David Montgomery and not trusting Jamar Gibbs until the fourth quarter when you're already down, it really took away. And I feel like if you would have gave him more touches, I feel like he would have been able to have more effect. I think he only finished with like maybe 10 touches, maybe 12, and I think majority of those came in the second half. So David Montgomery, in my opinion, not being there contributed to the offensive style being capped because once again, you're not prepared for a running back who you really haven't seen, who really hasn't done much. Jamar Gibbs, I want to say maybe had a touchdown or two prior to a couple weeks going into the game. So it's just one of those situations where your main contributor that you've been relying on is not there. And now you're in a bind because you're not used to playing with this other running back, but yet he's there. And it's just like, well, damn, how do I maneuver from this? So I feel like Golf got shook up a little bit because they weren't getting anything done on the ground. And it was one of those things where now you have to maneuver, and it was too much for him, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Jamar Gibbs' stats. He's got what 40 less carries. He's played in all 5 games. He does average about 5 yards on the ground, 5 yards per game on the ground. But I mean that is a very valid point. I also think that played a part in it because I don't want to necessarily less say that the Lions like this is more about the Lions loss and the Ravens just coming out and being impressive and showing that the Ravens are one of the elite teams. I think the Ravens have kind of been looked over, but Lamar Jackson is having an MVP caliber season. Similar to where it was prior. He went what 21 for 27 for 357 and 3 TDs against. I mean, a very stout Lions defense, if we're going to be honest. And for what it's worth, even with David Montgomery, not to say that you're because I agree with you. David Montgomery is a big piece, whether he was in Chicago and just the way Detroit's offense has been. Detroit's been a very physical team year in and year out. That's just how Dan Campbell likes to run things. But the Baltimore Ravens, their offense was just firing on all cylinders. I think that's what Ravens fans have been waiting for this entire season. They've been
Absolutely.
waiting for this Baltimore team to really show out. I mean, Zay Flowers, what 4 catches for 75 yards. Gus Edwards had a reception, obviously the 80-yard TD. Mark Andrews 4 for 63. Odell Beckham was here to the party. Odell, everybody was like, all right, Odell. Was Joey Porter Jr. said, hey man, go home and be a family man. Odell said, no, I still got time. That check's not ready to be cashed yet. So I do think Detroit was missing David Montgomery. But even with David Montgomery, who is to say that Baltimore still just doesn't put it on them? They might have like one or two more
Ah, for
touchdowns.
sure.
Yeah, because
Agreed.
Baltimore's defense also was firing on all cylinders. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So, but no, I definitely agree with you there. David Montgomery missing for Detroit definitely takes a dimension out of their offense that is obviously part of a well balanced attack, especially with Jared Goff. You don't want to put too much pressure on Jared Goff. That's what I think we've noticed. With his career, you never want to put too much pressure on Jared Goff. And to your point, there was a lot of pressure on Jared Goff to perform, and he reverted back to the Jared Goff that got him sent out of, I guess, St. Louis at the time or Los Angeles.
And it was very unfortunate to see because I mean I was expecting to see a much better performance, a much better game than what we saw. We literally saw just absolute bullying of one team. It was, yeah. I mean, hopefully, let me see who the Lions play next. Hopefully, they play Monday night against the Raiders. Raiders aren't anything special, so hopefully I can see the Lions turning it around on Monday night. But I mean, if they don't, it's unfortunate because they started really well this season. I was looking
Yeah, I mean,
forward to a great season.
they'll still win that. They'll still win the NFC North.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
Minnesota
think
has much to offer.
well,
It's gonna be
Minnesota's starting to
interesting.
click. And I know there were a lot of people saying JJ wasn't coming back because they were one and whatever at the time. But look at them now. I guarantee you, JJ's coming back and he's going to come back with a vengeance. But I do agree with you, Tommy. I still got the Lions winning the division.
Now, are the Vikings clicking because JJ is off the field?
Hmm.
That's a very good. I mean, probably
Hmm.
not, but
Hmm.
just something to think about.
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, the defense has been playing a little bit better. And that's obviously not because of JJ. So, um, but other than that, I
Dan
mean,
Fran.
yeah, it was an interesting game. But